Hello friends and welcome to my channel. Now today we're going to be putting forth a little experiment, shall we say. Now I don't know about you, but given the current social media environment, I have been doing some scrolling on some different platforms and I actually ended up on Facebook of all things. However, I found myself in Facebook slash Reels. I don't really know how all that works, to be honest with you. However, I have found myself in a point in the algorithm in which I have been getting sponsored book content left and freaking right, including one book in particular. And given that I am a fantasy romance reader at heart, I found it interesting that all I was being referred to was a particular fantasy romance book. Now, the individual quotes that were used to market this book were interesting to me enough. Like, they felt very like standard fantasy romance scenes. So I kind of scrolled past it, kept moving, and then saw another one. Scroll past it, kept moving, saw yet another post, scroll past it, kept moving. Then I thought, I feel like I'm getting this ad quite a lot. And then I kept getting ads. Okay, I got an ad for this book probably at least once a day minimum since like December. But on most days I got more than once. So my interest was grabbed. Okay, so we're going to be reading The King of Frost and Shadows by Jen L. Gray. And we're gonna put to the test, can Facebook pick a good book for me? Now this was the book that I got the most ads for. So obviously we're gonna start with this one. We're gonna kick back to past me and we're going to jump into this vlog. Hello friends, I stayed up until probably like 1:30 a.m. last night reading King of Frost and Shadows, whatever this book is called. I stayed up reading it last night, and the first 5% or so I was like, this is not gonna go well for me. I'm kind of cringy, kind of giving, she's not like the other girls. She has never been kissed before. She has never had any interest in any man or woman. Her sister has had interest in man or woman, is super flirty, but she's not like her sister. Her sister's so different from her, but then she's also so different from other people in the world. But also she's graduating with her bachelor in environmental science in the fall, so she's kind of nervous about whether she's going to get a job, and she's like going through all these very girly girl things. But it's weird because it starts off with kind of a flashback, but that doesn't really give you context that this is a flashback. All of a sudden you're suddenly in Georgia, Charleston, Atlanta, some, southern place, and they're celebrating New Year's Eve. And she is walking around at a concert bar, kind of, not a concert, I don't know, it gives like outdoor concert vibes, but it's definitely like a bar situation. She's looking around and she's not attempting to find her New Year's kiss because she has never had interest in anybody because, she's literally just a girl who's also not like the other girls. She is just kind of chilling. And then Chad walks up to her and is like, hey, baby. I guess Chad didn't really walk up into her. Somebody bumps her into him and he's like, oh no, you owe me a beer now. And she's like, sorry, I don't drink, bye. And he's like, then you can sit with me while I drink my brewski. Come with me. And she's like, no, thanks. And then a tall, dark stranger with eyes that she has been seeing in dreams her entire life shows up to rescue her. And then all of a sudden we're falling through a portal. And we're suddenly in a fantasy realm in which she is now being taken prisoner. And fantasy, fae, boy, shadows with wings, who's hot and also kind of scary, and who's apparently the king of the realm because of course he is. He doesn't like her. He's trying to break her. He is trying to make her pay for the crimes of her parents against his family, but also she has no idea what he's even talking about. So I'm kind of, at this point, at first I was like, I don't know how about this. I don't know. I think this is probably not going to be good for me. And I've gotten past that a little bit. I still think that this is fun and quirky, but it's definitely like silly, goofy, vibey, quirky. This is not going to be anything perfect. But I'm also kind of having fun with it. And I think it's just because I'm in the vibe of post-Onyx Storm. Like, what do I even do with my life? And also this is kind of capturing my attention a little bit. And it's also like, ooh, they're enemies. He also just, it's coming really out front with all of the one-liners. One of the guards was trying to not take advantage of the prisoner, but kind of like, rough up the prisoner a little bit. And he did not like that. And he was like, no one was going to touch you in my presence. I am going to be the one to break you. No one else will. I am going to be the one. Also, they have this really weird connection, and also she's like, where even am I? What is even happening? Who am I? I'm literally just a girl. And he's like, hey, you were adopted when you were 10, right? And she's like, yeah, how'd you know? And he's like, yeah, because you were adopted. And she's like, but I don't remember anything from that time. It couldn't possibly, I'm just a girl. And he's like, yeah, sure, honey, okay. So it's kind of, it's giving like very, very cliche kind of cringe, very chaotic, very like intro, fan row, baseline silly goofiness, but also I think I kind of want that right now. I will check back in with you when I have made some more progress. I'm currently at, I think I left off at the like 14% mark. I fell asleep while reading last night, and I have no idea where my Kindle fell, so I'm gonna have to go dig that out from under my bed whenever I get back home. However, kind of a vibe. I also did start reading this on my phone, and I have noticed when I start reading things on my phone, I'm like, it low-key feels kind of Wattpad-y to me, and that is just because I read so much Wattpad when I was a kid, and I've not really read a whole ton of things directly on my phone since the Wattpad days, and so I automatically am put into the mindset of cringe. Do I think I'm gonna recommend this book so far? Probably not, just by the vibes that I'm getting. However, we could get a change in pace. The other thing I wanted to briefly mention, I say briefly as if I haven't been absolutely rapid fire gabbing for the last nearly 8 minutes. So keep in mind, our girly pop, who, you know, didn't have any memories of when she was a kid, has been adopted. She was walking around in this bar New Year's Eve party situation. And keep in mind, we're in modern Southern times, okay, right? She walks around, she said, no, it's okay. I'm not too worried. I can defend myself because my parents taught me how to defend myself. And I always, as such, carry a knife on my ankle and a pocket knife in my pocket. And that's why both my sister and I are partial to bootcut jeans. What? Okay. So then she basically gets yoinked out of the world by her mysterious man who, apparently she has been seeing his eyes in her nightmares for how long. She doesn't think, maybe I should, like, fight back. She also has Chad basically being handsy all over her, and she doesn't do anything to fight back. So I'm like, are you actually gonna do anything about it, or are you just gonna kind of be a doormat? Which, like, low-key, I'm kind of enjoying the fact that she's a doormat because now we're getting to explore this other world, but I also feel like there could have been a better way to put her in that world. However, she's in the prison. There are, like, how many guards surrounding her? She finally is like, it's time to fight back, and she whips out her pocket knife against not only Shadow Daddy Boy with wings dude, whoever his name is, his cousin, who happens to have been a father figure to him, and one of the other guards. And she thinks that these big, come to find out, unseelie fae males, she thinks that she can pull one over on them with a pocket knife and escape. Okay. So far, I don't understand. But I'm also kind of enjoying it, but I think that's just because I'm like so taken out from the depths that was Onyx Storm, and I'm kind of just like ready for Silly Goofy, and I'm approaching this with Silly Goofy in mind, and not like this is going to be my next all-time 5-star favorite thing that's ever happened, and this is going to be the most well-written literary thing that's ever occurred, and I'm okay with that. So that is all of the updates for now on King of Frost and Shadows. I will check back in with you when I have some updates. Hello friends. Okay, so I read the absolute tiniest of any T90 amount of the book that currently opens. That we all know what this vlog is about. Like, why do I keep trying to say the name of the book for this vlog? Who knows? But I managed to read until 30% last night. I'm entirely unsure of what the plot even is at this point. Like, I feel like it's trying to be fast burn while also trying to be slow burn. Like, I feel like it's almost trying to set up a slow burn in a way that's making it feel fast burn. Like, it just doesn't quite make sense to me how we're doing it. Like, we've introduced some funny side characters. We've introduced a character that we're not really sure that their intentions are good, but of course our main male character thinks that they're good. He doesn't see their intentions the way we as the readers know, because we saw some other things happening. So at this point I'm feeling half not confused. Like, I know exactly what's going on, but I'm like, why is this going on? The dialogue in this book is also a little weird. We had a scene that was supposed to be like, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing, I'm so flustered right now, and it just came off as like, so that's how it's going. I'm so confused by our main character, our female main character, because one moment she's like, yeah, I'm so strong and I'm so confident and I'm so like, I can take care of myself, I'm so independent, and then the next moment she's like not doing her best. Like, and I understand that she's in a very weird, like, displaced scenario at the moment, we can say, but she also is just not giving what I think that she's capable of giving. Not only what I think she's capable of giving, but what I think that she thinks that she's capable of giving. And then she proceeds to give the fact that she thinks that she's capable, and then she's not actually, you know, all that capable. So, yet again, I'm 30% of the way through this book. I have no idea what's happening, what the plot is. I understand that we have this, you know, it's always been you kind of thing. I understand that that's being set up. And I also understand that we have this plot of the Seelie versus the Unseelie. And one set of characters, their parents killed the other set of characters, and it's ultimately going to be this battle between the Seelie, the Unseelie. But there's no greater plot. Like right now, she just kind of is like plopped into this world. She's not figuring out any more information about who she is, what's happening. We've met a couple characters, but we also have met and done not a lot. So I'm very curious to see. At this point, I'm like, I need to just continue getting on into this book and figure out what's actually happening, because at this point, I'm like, what is happening? Like, I feel like we've just had a lot of weird moments that have collected together to just be cutesy moments that we're gonna write about, kind of because we want to check all the boxes, but not because we're actually trying to use those moments to accomplish anything in a greater spectrum. So I will continue reading this book. We'll see how far I get. Also, I feel like I kind of just need to commit to the bit this week. I'm not somebody who's usually successfully reads a whole ton during the week, but this week I feel like I've actually read a little bit more than I have previously. Like, I've read little bits on individual days, which is great, but I think because this book, I'm not necessarily worried about like missing any detail, to where if I read it like late at night and I fall asleep 20 minutes in, I'm not necessarily worried that that's going to throw me off whenever I try to start it the next time around. I'm not so invested into this book that I'm upset whenever I fall asleep. So that's actually encouraging me to read more, so I guess like, hey, we'll take that. So I read for all of like maybe 20 minutes last night before I did fall asleep, and I'm curious if that is going to happen again this evening, because I do have rehearsal tonight, and then I do have some fun things planned for it this weekend. So hopefully tonight after rehearsal I can make some pretty good progress, and then tomorrow evening we might be able to wrap this up. Here's the thing, if I wasn't filming this vlog at this point, I might consider DNFing, but I'm also kind of like, I feel like this has potential, because if we've done all of this build up, what has this build up even been for? Because at this point I don't even know. So I've not even gotten to the point of being like yes or no, I'm interested in that, because I don't even know what that is yet. I'm also in a post Onyx Storm era at the moment, and low-key the fact that this is not necessarily all that complex or complicated is also kind of been nice. So you win some, you lose some. Sometimes you lose some, but you also win some. The next time I see you, we will be sat down, we will be locked and loaded on this book, and hopefully we'll get any form of information out of it. Okay friends, I have officially not only finished book 1, but have finished book 2, and maybe not necessarily for the reasons that I probably should have. I didn't love this. I really wanted to, and I think that there were certain moments that I was like, wait, what is happening? So let's quickly jump into book 1, give my thoughts and feelings, and I'll tell you why I even started reading book 2. So book 1, up until the about 45% mark, it just wasn't, it wasn't great. It hit me as we got into the last half of the book. We really, the whole beginning point of the book, were building towards this fight to the death trial situation, and we were really just spending time before then. Like, I felt like our main male character, I wasn't really interested in him nor his motivations. Our female main character, she would talk herself up to be a baddie at one point and then would do things that were very not baddie like of her the next moment. So I wasn't necessarily loving the beginning of this book. And then we got into the second half of the book, which involves these trials. Now, the motivations for her finding herself in these trials, while there are parts of the trials that I couldn't really visualize necessarily the best, I'm a sucker for a good trial, okay? And I really liked this part of the story. We had really been lacking getting to see our female main character in her element, in an element in which she was performing and, you know, doing well in general. And so getting to see her, maybe not necessarily doing the best, but like getting to actually have some action and like do some things was good. However, we started to get closer to the ending, and I'm not going to tell you what happened, and I'm going to keep this very spoiler free, but the cliffhanger that we were left on was quite literally, they were in the middle of a scene and it just ended, and you were like, wait, what? And so the structure of this series is very much so, I don't know if this is, I think this is a trilogy, I'll correct myself if I'm wrong, but the structure of this book is that each book basically ends in the middle of a conversation, and then the next book starts into that same conversation. So it feels like it's very much so telling one story, but we're just kind of breaking it up. And I don't know, I felt like the cliffhanger that we got from book one, you knew that that wasn't going to be the end result of what was happening, but it had me interested enough to see how we were going to get out of that. So I went ahead and picked up book two. I was able to get off, as you can tell by my voice, I am not super healthy at the moment, so my boss actually let me have half of yesterday and then today off of work, so I have been just rotting in bed and just reading the series. Now, I will give massive kudos to the series because it's not overly complicated, so I do in fact feel like this has been a fun series to just like read. I have a fantasy romance moment and read what I want to read, but like while also not being overly brain heavy. The editing could be better. There were points in which he was like, oh yeah, our female main character, I looked into her cobalt eyes, and then there was one line where he was like, I looked into her emerald eyes, and then he would go back to, I looked into her cobalt eyes, and I was like, wait, what? I mean, I get that she's a gem, but like, which gem is she? Sidebar, I've been talking, I went ahead and filled the intro in this bit, and just talking a little bit has already made me feel so much better. So if you're feeling like absolute garbaggio, sometimes putting on some makeup and gabbing about things that you really do like, even when they're not that great, does help. However, so based on the cliffhanger from book one, I went ahead and picked up book two just to see how we would get out of it. Now, definitely the pacing on book two was so much better. The pacing felt very regular. There wasn't a part in which I felt like the book really lulled. I felt like we were kind of getting ourselves into trouble and getting ourselves out of it in a way that made sense, but also in a way that there wasn't just like these long periods of time in which we were stuck in the trouble and no progress was happening. I do also think that the plot for book two definitely picked up in terms of setting up these conflicts between a bunch of different entities and characters. However, the conversations, the dialogue wasn't really that great. Some of the lines were kind of cringe. There was no tension, okay? I love tension, as most of us do, in fact. Every time we would get a spy scene, it felt like it was so oddly placed, but it was because they needed each other, but you really didn't feel a need, so you were kind of just like, okay, moved on. Also, if you're someone who doesn't like the virgin trope, run. There was a certain other half to that trope that did make it better in this particular book than it is usually. The reasoning for it also made more sense than her just being a virgin because she's just so naive and inexperienced. However, that did happen in this book. Now, cliffhanger for book two happened quite literally in the middle of a battle scene. The fight that we were in just paused, and that was the end of the book. And then the line was, if you want more from them, click out the next book. And it makes you almost feel like, I don't necessarily want to read this book, but I want to read it just to know what's happening. Like, I'm curious enough to know what's happening, but I don't feel like the curiosity to push me actually to read the next book is based off of anything that's about the book itself. It's just about like wanting to finish out the scene that I was currently reading. So all in all, did I like these books? I mean, well enough for me to finish them. So that brings us back to the question we wanted to answer at the very beginning of this vlog. Can Facebook recommend me a good book? I feel like they can. I don't know that they did in this case. However, it has been such a good thing for me to be able to transition my endless doom scrolling into something at least a little bit more productive. You know, and that productive is still reading a little fantasy romance. However, Facebook successfully did get me off of doom scrolling and into reading, which counts as a win in my book. Anyways, that is the end of this vlog. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hats off to Jen Gray for all the massive amounts of marketing that she has done, because had I not gotten millions of Facebook ads and not ever picked this book, I wouldn't have picked it up. And get your bag, sis. If you made it this far into the video and wanted to let me know that you were here, go ahead and leave the little fairy emoji. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day or night wherever you are, and I will catch you in the next one.